they're calling Vonnie a rat now. Okay. So where's this coming from? Let's show the post. Let's show how this all came about. And then I'm going to move this into the Mafia in a second with y'all. All right. So this was posted by who? Nut underscore FRFR. Okay. He's playing the song Federal Nightmares by Lil Durk. You see the rat emoji over here on the left. See a bunch of people affiliated, and I assume friends and family. Lil Durk in the middle. All right, this appears to be a text message screenshot. All right, I'm gonna start here. This is my jail number. If you need to get in contact, send me a message here. Inshallah. I call you this week just now, able to get everything on point. So allegedly, they're saying that this is Vonnie on his jail cell phone or a phone that he has access to, and then he's texting people. Okay. The next screenshot says, K Grant, yeah, I'm trying to plea out to a 32, which is the base for M dot. For H dot, max is 43, which is life. Minus 2 points for plea, minus 1 point for early plea, minus 2 points for no background, unless he just means that these are hyphens, but I'm interpreting this as minus. 27 is 5 to 7 years. Okay. Hopefully, inshallah, is better than that. I can't go to trial. Might get an elbow. Don't want them to do me like them other boys. Saying, I don't want to go to trial and fuck around and catch that L, that life. All right. Now, the last part of this screenshot that I see says, it looks like it might be a reply to him. You got it under control. If you take a plea, everyone else has to take a plea because you're accepting responsibility, meaning you're telling what your role was in it. But you can come home tomorrow if you let them know about Vaughn and you have me. And then I can't see the last sentence there. It's cut off. The caption of this reads, message that leak showing that OTF Vonnie was taking a plea deal and people who are affiliated with OTF, including Lil Durk's sister-in-law, including him, or his sister-in-law, is calling him a rat. Has everyone thinking Vonnie is going to be snitching on Lil Durk in the murder for hire case. Okay. So this is what they're putting on OTF Vonnie. Sister-in-law is coming out saying things, text messages being revealed. Let's go to this next one. What do we have here? This is another post, I believe, alleging or people calling out Vonnie. Lil Durk's sister-in-laws call OTF Vonnie a rat and stool pigeon in OTF Nuts IG story. Okay. All right. Let's do it now. Let's go to the question at hand because what we're talking about here from those posts and from those screenshots seems to be him saying, I want to take a plea deal. I don't want to go through trial and face life. I'm trying to get this way lesser sentence and I don't want to get hit like the rest of them boys. Plea deal. Let's start to open up the topic. Plea deal versus all out, direct, crystal clear cooperating with the government, i.e., an informant, a confidential informant, confidential human source, aka a snitch or a rat. What's the difference? Is there a difference to you? I'm going to tell y'all shortly the big difference for me, but also it could be 1 and 1 depending on who you ask. And when I say depending on who you ask, that's going to lead us into the mafia. But first, let's ask a lawyer real quick. Let's bring us up to speed. What's a plea deal? What do y'all really have the general take about it?
In this segment, we will discuss plea agreements. In a prior segment, I indicated that after a criminal case opens, there are only 3 ways to close the case. First, the case can be dismissed. This is typically done at the request of the prosecutor or the judge presiding over the matter. The second way that a criminal case can end is through the trial process, with either a judge sitting alone or a jury. The third and most common way that criminal cases end is with what is known as a plea agreement. A plea agreement is an agreement struck by the prosecuting and defense attorneys regarding exactly how and when a criminal case will close. That agreement may be oral or it may be reduced to writing. During the pretrial conferencing process, the attorneys come together to discuss the case. The prosecution focuses on the strengths of its evidence against the defendant. The defense focuses on weaknesses in the prosecution's case, as well as applicable legal defenses recognized by the law, things like self-defense, consent, alibi, defense of others, and more. During the negotiating process, the defense attorney also humanizes his client, highlighting the defendant's lack of criminal history, education and employment background, family, mental health or physical health history, military service, and more. The ongoing negotiation process ultimately culminates with a plea agreement. The agreement typically calls for a defendant to admit guilt or criminal responsibility. The admission may be to one or more of the charged offenses or something different. In exchange, the prosecuting attorney will agree to dismiss certain charges and or recommend a particular punishment. Where the parties can agree both on the crimes that the defendant will admit as well as the sentence that he or she will receive, they will present the plea agreement to the court for approval. Where they cannot agree on all terms, they will present those agreed upon terms to the court and then argue for their respective positions. For example, if the parties can agree that a defendant will admit guilt to certain charges, but not as to the punishment, the prosecution will submit argument to the court with his or her sentencing recommendation. That defense will do the same, and ultimately, the judge will decide. As I said, the vast majority of criminal cases resolve with plea agreements. If you've been charged with a crime and you have questions about a potential plea agreement in your case, call my office for a free consultation.
From a lawyer, from a lawyer, from a lawyer. Okay. Very, very precise. The three outcomes, of course, right? And what it takes to go into a plea agreement. Very, very crystal clear for us. Okay. Let's bring up somebody that some of y'all may know. A couple of y'all may know him. Actually, I think all of y'all know him. John Gotti. John Gotti, man. History shows or history says that he is one of the first, if not the first, to deploy the no plea deal rule amongst criminal organized members of the mafia, right? It could have happened before him. People could have taken that position before him, but I believe his position on it, sometimes it's who it is and him being such a famous crime boss figure. Maybe he's the one that popularized it. Who knows? I don't know. But his position on it was very, very clear. We do not take plea agreements, right? Because you saw what the lawyer said. To take a plea agreement, you have to admit to guilt of some of the charges. The prosecution then may turn around and say, okay, because of that, we may take certain charges away. We may lessen certain charges, downgrade certain things, or give you a better sentencing, etc., probation terms, whatever the deal. It literally is a negotiation, right? Look what Young Thug just went. It's a negotiation of us figuring out, you give me something, I give you something, because you never know what's going to happen if we continue all the way to a verdict, right? So another big call out there where he said a majority of cases end in plea deals. A majority, So John Gotti was against it. And if I scroll down to this segment here, let's read the top. Crime boss identified as both Castellano's likely murderer and his successor, Gotti rose to fame throughout 1986. At the time of his takeover, the Gambino family was regarded as the most powerful American mafia family, with an annual income of $500 million. Damn, I didn't know y'all was his family alone in the mafia is $500 million annually. Shit, that's why the government. That's one of the reasons why the government went after you so crazy. In the book Underboss, Gravano estimated that Gotti himself had an annual income of no less than $5 million during his years as boss, and more likely between 10 million to 12. To protect himself legally, Gotti banned members of the family from accepting plea bargains that acknowledged the existence of the organization. Now, the plea bargains that Gotti enforced there, or the rules that he enforced there against plea guard bargains, weren't just to protect him or co-defendants or other members from getting caught up. They were also very, very heavy of trying to protect the pure existence of the mafia, right? Jay-Z, what is the Illuminati? Shit, I don't know, some ghost shit. I don't know. If y'all fear me, just say y'all fear me. I bitch, I said that I'm amazing, not that I'm a Mason. The playing of the, I don't know what y'all on, what y'all talking about, right? ARP, what's Rare Beat Entertainment? I don't know. Heard about them before. Heard they do some hip hop shit or something. It might be fake, might be, I don't know. John Gotti, what's this hit that happened? They say it was retaliation to protect your mafia family. Mafia? What's the mafia? Man, listen, I'm in the business of construction. I run a legal family business, and I don't this mafia talk. I don't know why the media and all you people created this mafia thing. It's a ghost. It's a myth. I don't know nothing about no mafia. So then you can't do what Gunna did. Is YSL a gang? Yes, ma'am. You can't do that, because the moment you do that, other people could get caught up on that. Because simply establishing that this is not a rap group, this is a gang, or this is not a family construction business, this is a mafia family, simply establishing that opens the game up for the prosecution and for the feds and for the law, right? It opens the game up. Now that we're here and we have admittance from one of the fucking members, Sammy Bull Gravano, for example, that the mafia is a real thing, and the things that he's been doing was in nature to further the business or the success of John Gotti's led mafia crime family, the Gravano or whatever family, right? Then now it's a whole nother ball game. We way past us talking about ain't no mafia. What are y'all talking about? We way fucking past that. You know, you have somebody admitting to it. So John comes up with that, or John enforces that heavily. Let's continue. Let's continue. They say, should I say allegedly? Nah, because he went through just as much fucking court shit as his father, John Gotti Jr., right? They say that John Gotti Jr. was handed the mafia after his father, John Gotti, was convicted and put in jail. So it's like, Gotti Jr., here's the family, here's the keys, here's the blessing. Everybody follow his lead now. You know how it goes, right? One boss goes down, another boss comes into power. John Gotti Jr., from what I remember, fought just as many cases, if not more, than his father, right? Check this out. The U.S. Attorney's Office, fearful that a loss in the courtroom would create a new Teflon Don. Stop there. What do we mean by that? So this is about John Gotti Jr. going back and forth to court now, later on, after he came into power and his father was already in jail, right? Or maybe even passed away at this point. I'm not sure. But the Teflon Don thing, everybody knows what that is, right? That was given to John Gotti because he just kept beating his cases, beating the feds and shit. They're like, yo, who beats this shit? He just spanked the feds. What the fuck? And he's coming out of the courthouse. It's just like, it looks like the Kobe Bryant pose and the Michael Jordan pose. It's like, and his fame and his power grew from even beating these cases. And the media started calling him Teflon Don. It became a spit in the government's face, to the point where they went and sat at their tables and said, we need a new game plan. I got it. Let's create this RICO thing so that we don't even got to get John Gotti, who's Teflon. We can just get somebody else that's associated and tie them all together. Then boom, guilty. Gotcha, John. Come up with this RICO shit, right? So they were in fear that, allegedly, as per articles like this, that John Gotti Jr. could become the next Teflon Don simply by beating some of these cases on technicalities, not having enough witnesses, or people not taking plea deals. Okay, so let's continue. The U.S. Attorney's Office, fearful that a loss in the courtroom would create a new Teflon Don, offered Jr. a generous 6-year prison term if he would plead guilty. For Jr., it was the Christmas present he had been waiting for. 6 years, based on what he was fighting at the time? Shit, sounds like cake. For Jr., it was the Christmas present he had been waiting for. He was overjoyed. Only thing was, his strict parents wouldn't allow him to take it. When his father learned of the offer, he went Law enforcement people say ballistic. So I believe, yeah. So he's alive at this point. He's in jail and he's going crazy. His John Gotti, the senior, he says to him, quotes, it says, "Be a man, fight him, don't give an inch." They quote Gotti as yelling. And he got his wife too to get their son's case or get on their son's case. What could poor what could the poor boy do? Junior reluctantly turned the government down. So the articles like this, and this is kind of like known through mafia history, that they gave him that 6-year offer, and it was like, ooh, that's nice. I think I should take that. And then here come people like your father, your mother come along and say, we don't do that shit. And it's like, oh fuck. All right, I gotta turn that shit down. Okay. Let's continue though. They're a very, very close family. Kitty explained both the mother and father wanted the best for their son. But last April, at the start of the trial, moved agonizingly closer. The government, despite its stern promise that the December offer would be positively its final one, offered another deal. They came back again. This time, Junior ignored his parents. He grabbed it. Without a pain of embarrassment, the U.S. Attorney's Office shredded its bulky, far reaching indictment and instead came up with something far less substantial. The charges that Junior pleaded guilty to were extortion or extorting cash from a construction firm, bribing a union official, illegal gambling, and lying on a mortgage application. He could serve as much as 7 years and 3 months, and then at age 42, return to his wife, 4 kids, and the house overlooking Oyster Bay. 7 years for those type of charges. And they're coming at you as a Gotti. Feds. All of this, 7. He said this I turned it down the first time. Yeah, I'm not doing it again. Allegedly, right? That's how history reports this to us. Okay. Let's use one more example that I found real quick this morning on Reddit. I wonder, these guys are talking about take a plea out of 10 or make the Don happy to do 30. So another classic mafia image here of the Don, and scrolling even some of the feedback here. There was one that I seen here. Look at this last one. The logic was sound. Never admit the existence. I wonder if that was part of any deal for them. Never admit the existence of the mafia. This was their rules. Okay. Now, here's my opinion on all of this as it relates to what we're seeing with Vonnie. Allegedly, people starting to call him a rat. Plea deals, the history from the mafia, John Gotti Jr. Here's my overall opinion on it. If you are solo in your case, meaning nothing that you're facing these charges for involves a group of people, a mafia family, a gang, a group, your rap group, label, whatever. If it's independent, if I caught these charges because I went to the mall, I saw something on the shelf I couldn't afford, I took it, I put it in my pocket, I walked out, and I got arrested for it. Operating solely on my own, no co-defendants, nobody else. And then they come to me and say, listen, this is your first theft or your first offense, ARP. We're going to offer you a plea deal of admitting guilt and taking 2 years probation and no jail time. Or you could take this to trial and face 5 years for theft, right? Based on how much it costs. It's some grand larceny theft because what you grab costs $10,000, right? I think that's one of the reasons why Cassie used to call his group grand larceny, because it's like our shit is higher, right? The shit that we do. Cass, DM me. Let me know if that was, or text me. Let me know if that was the reason why you chose the name Larceny Family. Can't use that name anymore in today's world. Now I think about it. Shout out my nigga Cass. He watches a lot of our shit, and then he texts me and hits me up like, "Yo, can't believe you addressed that ball." Shout out my nigga Cass. But then me taking a plea deal is totally sound. It hurts nobody, affects nobody. You can never call me a rat for that. All right. But on the opposite, on the other side of that, if the charges that I'm fighting has ties possibly to co-defendants, if there's other people fighting similar charges wrapped up in my case, if I have anybody else in my paperwork, if my charges also are stemming to YSL as a gang, or the Mafia as a crime organization, or Four Pockets Full as a rap group that allegedly had a shootout in the middle of Atlanta, right? If that's why I'm sitting there facing charges, and there's other co-defendants facing charges, or they don't even have to be facing charges. What if there's other people that can get grabbed that aren't indicted yet, right? What if I'm Sammy the Bull and they're not on the trail of John Gotti or anybody, but my plea deal involves me saying like, yeah, you got me, I stole that shit in furtherance of my mafia family. I can use that not no later on if I get John. So whether that person is already in your paperwork, indicted, under investigation, already in custody or not, those type of plea deals, I would say I understand how people call those people snitches. It's not necessarily sitting down and saying, listen, man, now that you got me, let me get my burger, my French fries, and my soda. And let me start telling y'all what really happened. Yeah, it was really King Von that, like, that's clear cut. We get it, right? We get it. But that plea agreement, if they're saying you now have to admit guilt to things that other people are saying, I don't know what the mafia is. I understand why John Gotti and certain people say taking those plea agreements when you have co-defendants fighting the same thing that's trying to go to trial with it and beat it. I understand why they say that's a form of snitching. I understand. I'm not the one that's going to make that. I'm not a street nigga. Y'all make that rule. Y'all determine how y'all go about that. It's not new. It's not new. This goes back to the 80s and shit, 90s and shit. All right. The overarching discussion of taking a plea deal amongst co-defendants or other people that could be included in what you plead guilty to. Okay. So said that, chat. Where do you stand?